So in the social movements topic, so far we have discussed about peasant movements in the beginning, wherein we have talked about the farmers' issues, farmers' problems, various farmers' movements throughout the country, and various rebellions that has happened for the peasants. And next we went to the tribal movements. In the tribal movements, we have seen various movements throughout the country. The Mundas rebellion, Santals rebellion, and Hoi rebellion, uh, various uprisings, etc. in the tribal movements. Next, we went to the Dalit movements. In the Dalit movements, we have seen Dalit movements throughout the country, like Mahar movement, Adi Hindu movement, Dalit Panthers movement. Then we went to the Dalit movement in Telangana state also specifically, and we also have discussed about backward class movements. In the backward class movements, we have talked about Mandal Commission, Kaka Kelkar Commission, all these issues related to the backward classes, other backward classes in the context of India. So next topic that we are going to discuss, specifically all those movements that we have discussed so far is related to one section of the population. If you remember, one section of the population, peasants are one section of the population, farmers are one section of the population, tribals are one particular section of the population, Dalits are one particular section of the population, 16% in the country, tribals 8% in the country, farmers more than 40 to 50% of the population depending on the farming. So rest 50% are not part of the farmers group. So peasant movements, Dalit movements, backward classes movements, backward class people are more than 60% in the country. So backward classes. So all the movements that we have discussed so far are a particular section of a society. But now what we are discussing is environmental movements. The next topics we are starting is environmental movements. Environmental movements is universal in nature. It is not related to any particular group of people, any particular section of the people, or any particular issues of the people. It is related to all the people on the earth. Especially we are going to discuss about the environmental movements that have occurred in the context of India. So we are not going to discuss all the environmental movements throughout the globe. Yes, we will take some advantage, some information regarding the various international movements, international organizations, but we will specifically look at various environmental movements in the context of India, like Chipko movement, Apiko movement, Bishnoi movement, Silent Valley movement, Narmada Bachao Andolan. These movements are very, very important, very, very famous. Even when social movements topic was not there in the syllabus, there used to be questions about the environmental movements in the country. Even in the UPSC exam, UPSC prelims exam, questions from environment range anywhere from 20 to 25 questions in the 100 questions. So very, very important area that you should focus on if you are an exams aspirant is environment. So environmental movements, environment, environmental organizations, environmental degradation, various types of pollution, various types of associations formed for the on the climate change. These are the areas that you should be able to focus when you are aiming at becoming a government job becoming a government servant. So because environment is the most important concept for all the people around us, and it is the responsibility, it is the duty of the people at large to look at the environment and try to work for the environmental upgradation, not degradation. So environment knowledge, environmental idea, environmental awareness is impertinent for all the sections of the population. So that is where we have this environmental movement topic within the framework of our syllabus. So what is the environment in the first place? So environment is all surroundings like air, water, biosphere, etc. So all the areas surrounding us. So within the environment we have two components, biotic, abiotic. Biotic, abiotic. Biotic means life. Abiotic means non-life. So here rocks, valleys, mountains, all these are the abiotic concepts. Here plants, animals, humans, all these are the fungus, bacteria, and all. Blue green algae. Have you heard about this term, blue green algae? Blue green algae is a first type of living organism that is found on the earth. Blue green algae, the kind of bacterium that you see in the coral reefs. Coral reefs, if you remember the coral reefs. So this blue green algae, which is actually producing lot of oxygen. We all think that the trees around us is giving us oxygen, but 70 to 80% of the oxygen that is used or consumed or there in the atmosphere is produced by the bacteria called blue green algae. So environment is also atmosphere. What is atmosphere? If you go back to the geography concept, all the stratosphere, troposphere, ionosphere, and also here lithosphere. So I am not going into the geography and your environmental concepts here. We are here to discuss about the environmental movements. But before that, a small introduction about the environment is necessary here. So why environment is assuming lot of importance? Because when human beings were earlier hunter gatherers, there is no much debate about the environment, because environment, human beings are part of the environment. So if you have seen this particular reel or a diagram wherein lot of animals like lion, deer, elephant, snakes, antelopes, zebras, foxes, etc., bacteria, algae, human. So if this is the condition, maybe you have seen this kind of picture in the WhatsApp or Instagram. So when human being is part of the environment as one of the living organism within this group, then there is no environmental degradation, no issue. He will be part of the environment, use the environment and happily live along the nature. So environment is also called as nature synonymously. So but when human being came inside here, human being ikkada nilabadi ee prapancham naade, ivanni na surrounding lo unna animals or me at the center of the universe, I am the center, human beings are the center of the universe anukunnappa nunchi problem modalaindi. So where problem has started? Exploiting the nature, exploitation of the nature, exploitation of environment, which is also known as environmental degradation. How environmental degradation will happen? By various things like mining, deforestation, oil rigs, taking out oil, taking out fossil fuels, emitting greenhouse gases, global warming, cutting of trees, deforestation, and over exploitation of resources. Over exploitation of resources like water. So what happens if you keep on taking out water from the underground? One day the water will be exhausted. If you see the case of Bangalore today, every day you are studying newspaper, they are showing that Bangalore has exhausted with the groundwater. And also just yesterday there was an article in the Hindu newspaper saying that all the dams in South India has only 30% capacity of water so far. So very soon we are going to run out the water. I mean, you will only have dry taps. So water, which is the elixir of life, which is the most important component of life on earth, is tampered with, tampered very very badly by the human beings. So underground uh, sucking of water through bore wells and extra usage of water pollution, water wastage, these kind of issues tomorrow will lead to lot of problems for the humankind in general, and all the species in particular. So in Iran, there are two rivers called Amu Darya and Sir Darya. These rivers, if you see check the Google maps of these particular rivers, so those rivers are getting extincted, completely extincted. Earlier they were huge rivers, but now they are getting completely extincted. So the environment and environmental degradation is the most important concept in the 21st century, because there is a saying that Mahatma Gandhi says on the environment: nature has everything for man's needs, but not for man's greeds. So this you can use as a starting quote for an essay that you write on environment. Nature has, many of you might already know this also. For those people who doesn't know, I am writing here: nature has everything to meet man's needs, but not man's greeds. And there is also another quote saying that we need modern science which can cultivate the deserts, not cutting the forests. So technology should be such that it should be cultivating the deserts. Deserts లాంటి ప్లేస్ని కూడా మనకి వాటర్ వచ్చేటట్టు చేసే టెక్నాలజీ రావాలి, కానీ ఉన్న వాటర్ని అయిపోగొట్టి గ్రేట్ అయ్యే టెక్నాలజీ వద్దు అనేది దాని మీనింగ్. సో ఇఫ్ యూ సీ ద టెక్నాలజీ దట్ ఈస్ డెవలప్డ్ బై water scarcity country called Israel, like drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, these kind of countries have started as a model for the water conservation techniques. So water is only one aspect of the environment, but air also is another aspect of environment, wherein if you see the recent reports of the air pollution, every time there will be one or two questions on air pollution in the exam, competitive exams. If you remember the group 1 paper that has happened on June 11th 2023, he has asked the the places of air pollution ranking, Bhiwandi, Delhi, Dharwad, like that. So he has asked a list of air pollution. So air pollution is very very important topic for the exam. And if you remember, Delhi is one of the most toxic city with bad air quality. In the air quality index, all the Indian cities are in a very bad situation. So air, water, environmental degradation, melting of ice sheets, submergence of archipelagos and islands, submergence of countries like Maldives, Indonesia in the future. So these kind of problems will arise when environment will not be taken care of. So in this context, at this juncture, various environmental movements has been started in the context of India and also in the world to the safeguarding of environment. So why a need for the safeguarding of environment will come? By excessive mining. When this excessive mining happens, the whole geological nature of that particular place will change. Supposingly, if you do mining in the geologically sensitive areas like Himalayan region, there may be issues like landslides. Landslide is also one of the biggest disaster in the environment. Okay, so excessive mining, deforestation is very very prominent, most prominent problem in the context of the world especially, and also in the developing countries like India, China most importantly. So deforestation happening at a faster pace, cutting down trees, cutting down the forests for various developmental projects like dam construction, for greenfield projects, for various issues like highways construction, so for township construction, for smart cities project. So for various issues like this, every time lot of deforestation happens. So deforestation directly hampers the rainfall, directly hampers the air quality, directly attacks the species that are surviving on that particular ecosystem. So ecosystem, ecology, climate change, environmental degradation, uh, the biotic, abiotic, atmosphere. So these are greenhouse gases. These are the various keywords that are used in the context of environment. If you see that greenhouse gases, global warming, greenhouse gases, what are the greenhouse gases? Earth has a specific type of insolation and radiation. Simply, all the sunlight that is coming onto the earth will immediately go back into the outer atmosphere because of the radiation. But because of some of the greenhouse gases like methane, like carbon dioxide, these type of gases are increasing in the nature. So these gases are trapping the excessive heat, trapping the heat that is actually came onto the earth as part of insolation. So these particular gases are stopping the heat going back into the nature. So what is happening? The global temperatures are rising every time. Every year, 0.2% of rise in the global atmosphere is happening. So every time the globe is becoming more warmer, more heat. So if you see, summers are becoming more hotter and hotter every time, and you are seeing various type of untimely rains, untimely winters, excessive cold winters, excessive hot summers. All these are because of the issues like climate change, because of the issues like global warming. So this global warming is happening because of the greenhouse gases. So where these greenhouse gases are coming from? These greenhouse gases are coming from the vehicular pollution. These greenhouse gases are coming from environmental pollution, like from the factories, from the various industries, from various consumption of food like non-vegetarian. So in the environment, in the ecosystem, in the food chain, in the food web, various organisms have their importance. Supposingly the sparrow, we have recently celebrated International Day of Sparrow. So sparrow is extincted from the ecosystem slowly, almost, and it is an endangered species. So these kind of various organisms, various species are getting endangered, like gharials and sea buckthorns. Many of the species, they are endangered. Single horned rhino in the context of Kaziranga National Park of Assam. All these kind of various species, unique species, are getting extincted because of the environmental degradation. So the greenhouse gases are actually emitted by various developmental activities. The three biggest emitters of greenhouse gases and carbon emissions in this world is China, America and India. So India is in third place in the emission of greenhouse gases. So definitely we have to be very careful with the tampering with the environment. So greenhouse gases, global warming, over exploitation of resources. What are the resources? For example, oil. 90% of the oil demand, oil needs of India is the import. We import the oil, we import from the Gulf nations. Majority of the imports to India is oil only. So more than 50% of the import that we do from the outside world is oil. Oil in terms of diesel and petrol and crude oil. Okay, so, and also the gas. So this over exploitation of resources is also one of the biggest issue that is happening with the environment. And global warming, greenhouse gases, fossil fuels like coal. Coal is an important fossil fuel and it is non-renewable. Why non-renewable? Because the coal will not keep coming again and again. If you take the coal out of that place, it is done and it is only for one use. So, and if you remember, more than 60% of India's energy needs are thermal power. Thermal power is purely dependent on the coal. So thermal power is our, and that is why we are planning to go toward the solar power. So slowly the government started various missions various solar missions, solar power projects to go shift ourselves into the solar mode, because India is a tropical country. Tropical country means we have lot of sunlight availability, so we have to tap the renewable resources like sunlight. So if you remember the fossil fuels consumption, like oils, like coal, these are getting exhausted day by day. So once we cannot, if we are not shifting to the non renewable resources of energy, that can be turn out to be very hectic for the future needs of the people. So going back to the environment, if a person is one of the part of the ecosystem, there is no issue, but greed of the people coming into picture, issue starts with the environmental degradation. So environmental degradation as an important concept. So basically various developmental projects like dam projects, highway construction projects, extensive taking of water from the projects, cutting of the trees. So these kind of issues started the environmental movements in the context of India, like Narmada Bachao Andolan, wherein they are expecting to take construct 30 to 40 dams on the Narmada river. So people like Medha Patkar went against this movement, and Bishnoi movement, Chipko movement, Apiko movement, and various other movements that are related to the environment will be discussed in detail in this class. And if you go back to the international arena, the Stockholm Conference in 1972, Stockholm Conference 1972 is the first, it is the first conference or first organization which started discussing about the environment in the first place. Until 1970s, we are not caring about the environment. We are not really bothered about the environment and environmental degradation. So Stockholm Conference 1972 is the first and foremost conference wherein the environment is discussed in the beginning. So, and later on, if you see all the various organizations like UNFCCC, United Nations Conference on Climate Change, IPCC, United Nations Environmental Fund, UNEF. So all these kind of organizations came, and we are also doing conference of parties, COP summits every time, and we are doing various environmental missions throughout the globe. So all these are aimed at the betterment of the environment in the future. And we also have this green climate fund or green fund, green budgeting. And eco-friendly tag. So all those products which are eco-friendly will be given this eco-friendly or green tag. So if you go to the history of environmental movements, in the year 1962, American writer Richard Carlson has written an academic work called Silent Spring. So this Silent Spring actually sparked the discussion on the environment in the beginning. American environmentalist academician Richard Carlson has actually written an academic work, a book called Silent Spring, in the beginning in the year 1962, which actually started a throttle impetus to start discussing on the environment. and various organizations like Greenpeace movement, GREN, Greenpeace movement in America started discussing environmental degradation in the beginning. Environmental degradation, and various associations on environment started forming in the late 1970s and late 1960s and 1970s, in the beginning of 1970s. So the world has understood the importance of environmental protection, environmental safeguarding, and all the countries have started doing research in the Antarctica. So why Antarctica? Because Antarctica ice sheets, Antarctica ice sheets are the like signals for what is happening on the earth. Because of the global warming, Antarctica ice sheets are melting very at a very faster rate. So what happens if the Antarctica ice sheets and glaciers melt faster? The sea level will rise. If the sea level will rise, we always measure the landforms on the basis of mean sea level, right? The topography, the latitude and longitude of a place always measured on the basis of what? Your sea level. Always we say it is 30 meters above the mean sea level, 80 meters above the mean sea level. So mean sea level is one static point. But nowadays, because of the environmental degradation after 1970s and 80s started in that time and became more prominent after 2000s because of the developmental trajectory of various countries, today the mean sea level is getting raised every time. So all these countries like Indonesia, Maldives, Malay, and Seychelles, the Solomon Islands, many islands, Papua New Guinea islands, all these will slowly submerge under the water because their mean sea level is very less. Even our Andaman Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep Islands, Daman and Diu Islands also on the threat in the future also. So because of the environmental degradation, because of the melting of ice sheets and glaciers in the Antarctica, this is happening, and the reason is the greenhouse effect of the greenhouse gases. So all the countries which started discussing the issues of the silent spring in the late 1960s and 1970s started Greenpeace movement on environmental degradation. Remember the Richard Carlson name, and the Antarctica research in Antarctica, and more importantly, with all these changes, suddenly we have started international organizations, international associations on the environment. All these have led to the Stockholm Conference in the year 1972, June 5th, 1972, first conference on environment happened in Stockholm. Stockholm is a place in Sweden. Okay, Stockholm Conference happened in 1972. So this June 5th is always celebrated as World Environment Day. World Environment Day is celebrated or commemorated or memored on the June 5th of every year, because the Stockholm Conference initially happened on June 5th, 1972 in Stockholm, Sweden. So this particular Stockholm Conference have led to the discussion on the environment throughout the globe. So these are the various issues that has happened on the topic of environment throughout the globe in the world scenario. So if you remember, the environment movement started because of various issues like mining, dam construction projects, very important. The Narmada Bachao movement, Silent Valley movement in Kerala, these type of movements have happened because of the dam constructions. So we will discuss that in detail, but just now understand dam construction, excessive mining, deforestation, oil rigging, taking excessive oil from the underground and fossil fuels extraction like coal and other fossil fuels like oil, crude oil, greenhouse gases, the greenhouse gases emission, more emitting the greenhouse gases, and global warming. Because of the greenhouse gases, the air, the warmer air is trapped within the atmosphere, and the trapped greenhouse gases will increase the general climate or the heat of the heat budget. We call it heat budget. So in the heat budget, incoming solar radiation, outgoing solar radiation, incoming will be more, outgoing will become lesser than what is actually came to the earth. With that, what happens, the global warming will happen, and because of the global warming, the heat budget of the earth will increase, and greenhouse gases will lead to the melting of glaciers, climate change, excessive rainfall, untimely rainfall, various issues like landslides, etc., which are connected with each other as a global as a cycle of natural events. So greenhouse gases, global warming, over exploitation of resources, and all these issues will lead to the various movements. Deforestation is one of the biggest reason for various environmental movements. For example, Chipko movement and Bishnoi movement. Even in the Bishnoi movement in the state of Rajasthan, and Chipko movement in Uttarakhand, wherein the local people were hugging the trees to not let them cut the trees. So deforestation is also one of the biggest reason for the environmental movements. And movements like indigo cultivation in the peasants also are considered as, and many of the tribal movements are also against the deforestation, if you remember the tribal movements. So all the tribal movements, peasant movements are also linked to the environmental movements that we are going to discuss today. So these are the various reasons for the environmental movements. Internationally, Richard Carlson, Silent Spring, an academic work, Greenpeace movement, remember, and also Antarctica research, and World Environment Day on June 5th every year. Stockholm Conference is the first conference on the environment. So these are the various issues that are like introduction topic to the environmental movements. Next, immediately what we do is we go and discuss about the environmental movements in India. What are the various environmental movements that have happened in India so far? For example, Bishnoi movement, Chipko movement, Apiko movement, Silent Valley movement, Narmada Bachao, Sardar Sarovar Dam project, all these projects we will discuss one by one individually. Okay.